So Reginald Scott, please keep doing what you're doing. It's valued.
Hello everyone, Reginald Scott here. Welcome to the video. Great to see you all again, and I genuinely hope you're doing great today. Today I'm going to talk to you about why this bike hanging on my bike stand, which I've just done a load of servicing to for a customer, is better than 90%, maybe even higher than 90%, better than 90% of the bikes you can buy new today from the likes of Trek, Specialized, Giant, Cannondale, you know, the big names in bicycle manufacturing. So I'm going to explain that to you and why this is one of my top picks for the kind of bike you should be looking for secondhand if you're in the market for a secondhand bike, which honestly I think most of us nowadays should be, and I'll explain why that is. But I want to give you a really nice overview of this bike that I've been working on. This is a customer's bike. I've just finished servicing it, and I'm going to tell you all about it, the things I do like. The things I don't like, there's about 2 or 3 things on here which I'm not keen on, and I will point those out to you, but the rest of it is fantastic. So if you're interested in that, please do like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with a friend, comment below, and of course you can support my channel and the work that I do on YouTube at the Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can buy some of my very personalized custom merchandise, laser engraved of course, and you can also just donate if you so wish. Right, now getting on to the video. So this is a Cannondale CAD 10. I think it says somewhere up here. There we go, CAD 10. Now the CAD 10 is aluminium. This is an aluminium frame. It's very nicely welded. It's been smoothed out a little bit. Okay, it's not that amazing welding, but it's fairly decent. It's certainly prettier than, say, for example, these Specialized Allez I had in my stand last time I did one of these videos. You know, that's got pretty ugly welds in it. They call it smart welding, but it's just another word for ugly welds. This is a lot more sleek, and it could probably pass for carbon fiber if you weren't paying too much attention to it. It does have a carbon fiber fork on it. This is one of the best aluminium frames ever made, literally ever made. In my top aluminium frames, I would say possibly it's going to be like a Giant TCR in aluminium. It's going to be the CAD 10. It's going to be the Specialized Allez Sprint. Anything else? Oh, my personal aluminium bike, which I had custom made in the UK. That was a really nice aluminium bike. But basically, this is one of the best aluminium frames money could have bought you back in the day when this was sold new. Goodness knows how many years ago now. I'm not even going to try and estimate, but I'll put the date that this was first released somewhere in the screen. So the customer who owns this bike, they haven't ridden it in about 4 years. They brought it in and said, can you do it up and clean it and make it sort of roadworthy, because I want to start riding again. That's always a good thing. So that's what I've done. I did about 5.5 hours work on this thing to get it up to scratch. But you can pick up one of these bikes, bearing in mind they used to cost around 2,000 British pounds for this 105 version that we have here. Nowadays you can pick them up for $800, not even pounds. You probably pick them up for about $800 US or less, to be honest with you, depending on how good you are at negotiating, you know, depending on how desperate the person is to sell. You might even be able to pick one of these up for less. Every time I make these comments, or every time I make these videos, I get somebody posting a comment saying, oh, I bought one for £50 and a packet of crisps. Which is absolutely fantastic to that commenter there who's about to say that they bought it for £50 and a packet of crisps. Good on you, because you got an absolute bargain. I would pay $800 for a bike like this, because these frames are fantastic. What makes them so good? Okay, well, number one, super lightweight. These aluminium frames from Cannondale, hydroformed, right? So hydroforming is using basically like a mold. They put the unformed tube into the mold, they cap off either end of the tube, and then they put highly pressurized water into that tube, and it expands into the mold, basically blown into shape by the high pressure water. And they do some beautiful hydroforming on these, so they have fantastic shaping on all of the tubing, something which is much more difficult to achieve in, say, for example, titanium, although 3D printing in titanium is coming on a long way, so you know, you never know what's going to happen in the future. But at the moment, aluminium certainly shapes very, very nicely. So these were very beautifully shaped. These were very stiff, responsive, lively frames to ride. excellent for racing. But I also know a lot of customers who've owned these in the past, and friends of mine who've owned these, and I've even had a little play on some of these bikes, and they're not bad for comfort. They're actually, I know guys who will spend all day in the saddle on one of these, riding alongside me on my titanium, on my steel bike, and not a word of complaint passes their lips. Maybe they're just built different. I don't know, but these are not particularly uncomfortable frames. I got a lot of people who tell me that they're nice frames to ride. But anyway, very responsive, very nicely shaped, very stiff, and very lightweight. A frame like this from Cannondale, this CAD 10, is going to be around the 1,000-gram mark. So 1 kilo for a frame like this, which means you can build these things up incredibly light if you've got even a reasonable budget. And again, if you can pick one of these up for $800 or something or less, that's going to give you a huge scope to improve it. Like I say, this is just the basic 105 version that we've got here. But hey, there's nothing wrong with 105. It's probably the best group set ever made. You know, is that a controversial statement? I don't think so. You know, especially one like this, it's just super reliable. It shifts beautiful. It's cheap to operate, cheap to buy. What more could you want from a group set? I mean, really, really good. But like I say, they made these in Ultegra versions. They made them with the specialist Cannondale cranks that came with them. But yeah, you can make these bikes much, much lighter if you so wish. And you know, you can get it down sub 6 kilo if that's what you're aiming for. No problem at all. To sort of explain it, 1,000 grams is your sort of top end carbon fiber range of bike frame. My T1 SL, you know, the very, very light titanium frame in my size, which is a large, you know, it's a large frame, but that was 1,100 grams. So like I say, for the price, these things are incredibly light. Now, another advantage of this thing is external cable routing. Now, I know a lot of people are upset by external cable routing. I'm not. I like external cable routing, possibly because I'm a bike mechanic and I have to live with this sort of thing. And I have to, you know, service bikes like this. But this makes life so much easier. If you ever have any issues at all, having the cables on the outside is absolutely wonderful. And the thing is, when you're riding a bicycle, like if you've ever watched any of my videos on this channel where I'm riding one of my bikes, you sort of, I have the camera on my chest and you kind of get the view that I get while I'm riding. All you see is the handlebars. You know, when I'm riding my bike, I don't see the down tube. I don't see the cables. I only really see what's out here as I'm riding down the road. So the fact that my bike has cables never really bothers me because I don't see them. And as I'm not just hanging the bike on a wall just to look at, although I do hang my bikes on the wall, as you know, I'm not just hanging it on the wall as a piece of art. I'm hanging it to store it, and then I'm riding it. I don't really care about the external cables. And, you know, the good thing about external cables is lots of good things. I have a video all about it. But a few of the good things is they're very lightweight, lighter than internally routed stuff, easier to maintain. You also get less rusting. I find when you've got the cables on the outside like this, if they're on the inside of the frame, they tend to stay wet and humid inside the down tube, and they tend to rust faster. Whereas if they're open to the air like this, they have a chance to dry off, and you can also wipe them down and stuff. So the cables generally last longer as well with an externally routed bike. So there you go, phenomenally good stuff. Now, this customer has a few personal items on here. He's got his Physique bar tape that I put on for him. This is the Physique Soft Touch bar tape. This one's a little bit old now, to be honest with you. They're from stocks. I gave it to him for $1, which is super cheap. But if you buy this stuff new, it is actually really, really good. It's one of the longer lasting Physique tapes, and it's got a nice sort of suede grip to it. It's one of my personal favorites and one of my customers' personal favorites as well. Decent Physique tape. Physique do make some trashy tape, but this isn't one of them. So there you go, that's nice. Another personal feature of this bike is the tyres that the customer has chosen. He's gone for these, well, these are my favourite tyres, handmade in Germany. These are the GP, oh, sorry, not GP, what I'm talking about. Well, they are GP, Grand Prix 4-season tyres. These are my favourite tyres simply because they are lighter and better rolling than, say, for example, a Gator Skin, but they have possibly as good, if not better, puncture protection than the Gator Skin, and they're as grippy as all hell. I absolutely trust my life with these tyres. I love them to bits. I have them on my T1, as you can see. Yeah, I don't think for all-round riding, training, exploring, riding on gravel tracks occasionally, basically anything you can think of, these are the best tyres out there. Maybe not pure racing. You know, if you're going to be doing pure racing, you would switch to something lighter and a bit more responsive, like a GP5000. But, you know, for everyday just riding pleasure, I think these are phenomenal. You hardly ever get flats with them as well, and they last a really good long time, and they've got this wonderful sidewall protection on them, which I do appreciate. So yeah, absolutely wonderful tyres. I've got a video about those as well. I've loved those things for 10 years on YouTube. You know, my video that I did 10 years ago, talking about how amazing those things are. This bike is also rim brake, which is great because it's simple and easy to use on aluminium rims, easy to service, operates beautifully. You know, really nice feedback and feel from the braking. And yeah, cheap and effective and lightweight and aerodynamic. It's got everything. Rim brakes are for the win, for sure. Right, the wheels. Now, I'm going to get onto the things that I dislike about this bike. Okay, so you ready for this? Can you guess? It's not the bottom bracket. Talk about the bottom bracket in a minute. It's not the bottom bracket. First thing I dislike, and this is just a personal thing, I'm not a fan of Mavics. I'm sorry. I'm really not a fan of Mavic rims. You know, when I heard that they went bust when Mavic went out of business, I don't know if they're back in business now, but when they went out of business, I was kind of a little bit happy about it. I find Mavics very ugly. I mean, they're a French brand, and you'd think they'd be more stylish, but I find them very ugly, offensive to the eyes. They're always far too heavy. They're always far too overpriced for the quality of build and craftsmanship, in my opinion. And I hate the hubs. I think the hubs are like the worst hubs out there for some of the big wheel brands anyway, just because of the way they work. If you know how a Mavic hub works, or one of these Mavic hubs works, they basically, the Mavic company removed one of the bearings from the hub body in order to save money, basically. And the way the design works, it's just not a good design, and you always get slop and play in a Mavic hub. I'm just not a fan whatsoever. Basically, half the hub body runs on a nylon bushing instead of a proper bearing. Again, like I say, the company did it to save manufacturing costs, and it just makes for not a good hub. But hey, good thing about Mavic rims, I will say this, they are really bomb-proof. I mean, the spokes are like suspension bridge girders or something. They're absolutely unbreakable. The rims are, like I say, very heavy duty, but very, very strong and long lasting. In a way, it's a negative because you'll never get rid of the things. So yeah, bit too heavy, bit too ugly, terrible hub designs, but Mavics, they do last for a really, really long time. So that's a positive. Anything else? He's got a physique saddle on here. I think he's, you know, put this on aftermarket. This is an Antares open, you know, with a big cutout in it for your tender parts there. Nice saddle, decent saddle, not too heavy, pretty comfortable for those longer rides as well. Decent amount of sort of firm padding. I find firm padding is the best way to go. You don't want anything too soft because you tend to like get creases and stuff in your bibs if you've got a saddle that's too soft. Firm support is what you really need for a road bike saddle, and yeah, it's a decent all-round saddle, that one. So there you go. That's pretty much all there is to say. All the componentry is aluminium. The bar is new. We fitted the bar for the customer because his previous bar actually corroded so badly. I can actually show you just a second. So here we go. This is his other bar, or his original bar. You can see it's the original Cannondale one, and you can see where the clamps were on the bar. It has really badly corroded there. There's aluminium oxide all over the place. And you can see just sort of here and here, we have two large holes that have basically been eaten right into the aluminium there. So that drop there was getting very close to snapping off. And it's exactly the same on the other side, maybe even a bit worse. So we replaced the bar when I was doing servicing to his bike, and I removed the old bar tape. I said, ooh, you might want to consider changing your bar. I gave him 50% off the bar as well, so he didn't have to spend that much on that. So there you are. That's the old one. So yeah, that's a new addition, but all the componentry on this is aluminium, you know, the basic stuff that came with the original bike. Now, let's get into the next thing I dislike about this, and this is not, well, it is a personal opinion, but I think it's a personal opinion that is based in fact. This compression plug on these bikes, these Cannondales, is trash. Basically, what you have is a very deep top cap here, which has got an extended body to it that goes down inside the steerer tube here, and then the top cap itself, the little expander plug that goes in, is very narrow. It's only about that wide, and so a lot of this steerer tube is completely unsupported. So when you bolt the thing down, you can very easily crush the carbon fiber steerer tube, and it just doesn't give you the level of support that you really should have on a decent steerer tube. I like compression plugs that go down deep inside the headset and give me support all the way down from the clamping area for the stem. So these ones, if you do have one, get it changed. They're just not that good. I mean, do they fail very regularly? Not particularly, but they just give me the EBGBs, because when I remove them, I can see how little material is actually being supported here by these top caps that were very, you know, were designed for Cannondale by FSA. So yeah, not a fan of that. That's something I would change if this is my bike. And the other thing I'm not a fan of, which you can't really do anything about, is the cable entrance point here. So this bike has been recabled to British style. So when it came in, it was French, and I convinced the customer to change. So the French style is they go from the left-hand side here, and they go over to the front brake on the right-hand side. And on the right-hand side, usually on most bikes, they come around here, they come across the front of the head tube, and they go down this side where the cable stop is. So I can actually show you on my bike. This is where the normal cable lug is for a normal bicycle, you see. So they come from the right side, and they cross the head tube, and they go down the left. Now, this bike is a bit of a weird mashup, because although the right-hand side works beautifully for the front brake, which I have adjusted here, or set up like that, the left side is a bit funny, because the left side still has to come across the front to go down the port. This makes zero sense. I don't know why they did it like this, really, because they go in from the right-hand side of the head tube here, and then they trail the cable through the top tube all the way to the back, and they come out the left. And then they go down the left, and they go into the port on the left for the brake. So that makes absolutely no sense to me, why they've done it like that. Obviously, because they want to cable the bike French style, and because bikes were never really designed to be cabled like that. They were all designed to be cabled like a motorbike, you know, where your right hand controls the front brake on a motorbike, which is the way it should be. Yeah, they just messed up the cabling. So that is something you can't change about these bikes, but hey, no bike is perfect. I would overlook that if I owned this bike, because the frame is so good on every other level. Now, interestingly enough, when I recabled this thing, I used all of the original cables. I just shortened them, basically, because when you do it British style, you need less cable length. So you get smoother braking and smoother shifting, all round better shifting, and it's safer as well, because your dominant hand is on your front brake, which is the most important brake. But I saved this customer by shortening his cables, I think around 27 or 28 grams. Now that doesn't, I'll stick it up on the screen, because I forgot exactly how many grams I saved from all the extra tape that was used as well, because the previous bike mechanic used way too much tape. What's extraordinary is that doesn't sound like a lot, right? 28 grams or 27 grams doesn't sound like a lot. But if you think about it, that's 2 bottle cages. I've got these very lightweight bottle cages on my bike here. I think these weigh like 15 grams each. I bought them from AliExpress. And they're dirt cheap as well. They're like 20 quid or 19 pounds or something from AliExpress. 15 grams each or something ridiculous like that. Literally, I've saved him enough weight that he could have 2 free bottle cages on the bike. Now, the bottle cages he's got on the bike right now is one aluminium from Zfal and this cat eye one, which is heavy-duty plastic. Those I think I would change if it was my bike, just because nowadays you can pick up such cheap carbon fiber bottle cages from China. Why buy anything else really other than titanium, if you can afford it, but most people can't. So the carbon fiber to me seems like the best option, for bottle cages at least. I'm not a fan of aluminium cages because the paint rubs off them and then you get aluminium powder sort of scrubbing on the side of your bottles and it ends up dirtying your bottles and it just looks rubbish. So I would always go carbon fiber and or plastic if you can't afford carbon fiber. But nowadays, like I say, carbon fiber bottle cages are so unbelievably cheap that you might as well just go straight for the carbon fiber. One thing I would say about this frame, now normally with metal bikes you can sit on them, when you're waiting for the group ride and people are sitting on their top tubes on their fancy carbon bikes. That's a really bad idea because you can break and crush the top tubes because they're paper thin. Now, normally you can sit on a metal bike, no trouble at all, like my Thai bike here. This thing is unbreakable from me sitting on it. I've stamped on a segment of open-ended top tube of this bike and not broken it. And this steel one, that's going to be no issue whatsoever, although it's not particularly comfortable to sit on because it's so narrow. But this I also wouldn't sit on. I also wouldn't clamp this. I've had bikes like this before come in my shop and they've been serviced at a different bike shop and there have literally been a dent here and here and a dent here and here where they've clamped the top tube and crushed it because these are very, very, very thin, very, very finely made, lightweight aluminium tubes, and they do dent and bend. They do dent and bend very easily. So although they won't crack on you like a carbon tube will if you put pressure to it, you will dent them and warp them and bend them if you clamp it. So don't clamp your Cannondale CAD 10 or any of the CAD series top tubes because they are so easily bent. Now, carbon frames don't last forever. People often say in the comments, carbon frames, aluminium frames don't last forever. They get micro fractures in them over time because as they fatigue, the welds sort of crack and you can break an aluminium frame. But to be honest with you, at this price range, it's worth it, even if it does crack in a few years' time. And generally speaking, it's quite rare. The only frame I've ever broken, aluminium-wise, was a really cheap Decathlon bike that cost me £125. And that cracked on me after 2 years of winter riding, hard winter riding. I used to absolutely thrash that bike. And it also crashed a couple of times, to be honest with you. I came sliding off on a roundabout on a patch of ice at least once on that bike. So the fact that the rear seat stay cracked on me might be a result of me crashing the bike rather than it just failing. So yeah, I very rarely see these things fail. And if you look after them and you wash them regularly and just maintain them, they should be absolutely fine. Right, what else is there to say about this bike? Weight-wise, this bike comes in complete with pedals. It's got what are these? Ultegra. Ooh, very nice. Ultegra pedals on here. 105 group set, the very heavy-duty Mavic rims, all aluminium componentry. There's not a drop of carbon fiber on this thing, apart from the front fork. This baby comes in at 8.3 kilos. Now, that doesn't sound very impressive, but I had a Trek Imonda carbon disc in here. It was a carbon Imonda frame, right, with disc brakes. From the Trek shop a while back. I think it was a size XS. It was a really small size frame, like as small as they come kind of thing. And that bike with pedals, I think it had 105 pedals, but it had a 105 group set as well. That came in at 9.3. So this is a one full kilogram lighter than the bike you can buy today in carbon fiber from the Trek shop. And that Trek shop bike is going to cost you what? 3-4 grand? you know, something around that kind of price range. I was in the Trek shop the other day to pick something up actually, and they had a they had a Madone, which I lovingly refer to as the Mad One because you'd have to be mad to buy one. They had a Trek Madone in there, Ultegra Di2 with the Ultegra carbon rims, no pedals, $10,000 they were asking for this bike. $10,000, unbelievable. But anyway, and that thing's probably not much lighter than this. If it even is lighter than this, I'd love to weigh the thing because you're probably looking at 8 kilos again for one of those Trek Madones with Ultegra components. To be honest with you, it's going to be closer to 8 than it is to be 7. To be honest, so like I say, if you can pick one of these up for less than $800, you've got an 8.3 kilo bike that has the potential to be a sub 6 kilo bike or a sub 6.8 easily, with a few little improvements, and it's significantly cheaper and significantly lighter than anything you can buy in the Trek shop, for example, today. Probably anything you can buy in the Cannondale shop today as well, simply because it's rim brake and externally routed. You don't really get much lighter than this. Also, these two-piece cockpits tend to be lighter than one-piece cockpits as well. And it's not aero, so again, all the tube shapes are lighter because they're not overbuilt and they're not, you know, super wide. So there you go, folks. This is a phenomenal bike. Oh, I forgot. I was going to talk about the bottom bracket. So the one complaint people usually have about the CAD series of aluminium frames was the bottom brackets. Everybody hated the bottom brackets on these things because they were BB30. So what that is like a round, smooth shell, okay, for the bottom bracket down there. And you would take your internal 30mm bearing and you would press it directly into the frame, and there'd be a little C-clip cut into a groove inside the BB shell. I'll show a picture if I can find one. And you just press the bearing directly into the frame. Now, in theory, that should work just fine, but for whatever reason, sometimes you'd get movement in those bearings. Personally, I think the main issue was the bike shops and the factories that were installing them. I think when they were made in the factories, they were installed poorly, and so you often get the bearings twisted and things, which ended up damaging the soft aluminium shells, and then that led to sound. Also, they probably weren't pressed in with any kind of grease or anything, so a lot of them were pressed in dry, and then water got in there. And basically, I think it was poor installation or poor servicing from the factories, if you like, and also bike shops as well doing a poor job on them. But yeah, they did often make noise. That's one of the major complaints people had. But this one has a solution. So you can buy bottom brackets, like two-piece bottom brackets that thread into a BB30 shell and completely eliminate that issue. This one has a slightly alternative solution. Let me just go around the other side and show you. So if you notice, you've got a standard threaded Shimano bottom bracket in here. Now, how is that possible? Because this is not a threaded shell. It's just a smooth shell. So this is one of the very reliable and standard Shimano threaded bottom brackets. How on earth is that in this shell? Basically, what somebody's done, I didn't do this, somebody has installed a threaded sleeve. So basically you get a tube with threading in the tube for one of these BSA style bottom brackets, and you just press it into the frame. Usually you use some kind of retaining compound. If I was doing this, I would absolutely clean out this bottom bracket till it was spotless. I would then polish it by hand with a scouring pad, like a lightweight scouring pad, just to make it nice and smooth, clean off any corrosion in there. Then I would use some kitchen paper with some cleaning chemicals, and I would just really smooth it out and really clean it so it's absolutely spotless and dry. And then I would put in some like retaining compound, like a Loctite basically, in there as I press in the aluminium threaded tube so that it absolutely positively will not move when it's in there. And then you can put your grease in the threads and thread in your bottom bracket, which is your standard BSA. So this is basically turned what should have been made and originally manufactured as a BSA bottom bracket, to be honest with you, into a BSA bottom bracket. I think the reason Cannondale did this because they wanted to fit their own personal cranks to some of the higher level bikes, and those were BB30 cranks. They had a 30mm spindle. But if you're going for a Shimano 24mm, you can't go wrong with BSA threaded. So that is a solution. So if you do have one of these and you are getting creaking issues, there's a couple of ways you can deal with it. One is to go for a threaded sleeve like this, or get the two-sided threaded bottom brackets that screw into each other basically, and then you just put grease in the bottom of the shell and you screw them in once you've taken the C-clips out of there. So there you go, folks. That is a beautiful solution to that problem. Basically eliminates that problem completely. Right, let's go back around again. All right, so I think I've pretty much covered everything there is to say about this bike. Like I said, this is definitely, if this was in my size, or if I could find one in my size, I would be sorely tempted to buy one. I don't need one now. I've got 4 bikes in the house that I can ride, so I don't really need any more bikes. But and if I did buy another bike, if I had the money to buy another bike, it would probably be another titanium bike, to be honest with you, because I love titanium. But yeah, if you're on a budget and you're looking for a really, really good all-rounder roadie bike, you know, and you're looking for something that's fast and fun to ride, maybe you want to do a little bit of crit racing or something, maybe you just want to, you know, go for a blast at the weekend with pals, keep your eye out for one of these. I'm sure there must be some floating around secondhand. People quit cycling all the time. People grow old, you know, people find new hobbies. People buy them for their wives and the wife never rides them. There'll be one out there you can get. And if you can get one of these, it's definitely my top pick. Like I say, remembered, so I love the Bowman Palisar, the 2nd gen one, was really, really good. Rim brake one, of course. Specialized Alice Sprint, this, and anything else I mentioned? Oh, the TCR in aluminium as well was really, really good. So yeah, those are my top picks for aluminium frames, secondhand, if you can buy one. So there you go, folks. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please do stay safe when you're out riding. If you want to support the channel, please do so at the Buy Me a Coffee page. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And oh, just a little bit of an update as well on the previous video. My wife is back home now. She's not 100% and she may need to go back to hospital for more surgery in the future. But at the moment, she's convalescing at home, so that's nice. And the baby was removed by surgery, C-section, and the baby's doing well in the ICU, the neonatal ICU at the moment, in one of those incubator things, and the baby's doing fine. So she's actually started to eat. It's a girl. It's another girl. She's actually started to eat, so that's fantastic. So fingers crossed, everything's going to be great, and they'll be all back home and with us not too far away from now. Just in case you cared. If you didn't care, you could have already turned this video off for all I care. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Really appreciate it. And hopefully see you in the next video. Ciao for now.
You know, when you came in, I was watching a Reginald Scott video.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the video. Yeah, I was just watching.
I really like Reginald.
Yeah,
it's a great guy. It's very funny. I watch all his videos.
Yeah.
I watch all the videos of Reginald, George,